Welcome back to Talk Sense, the place where we do things a bit differently, present different perspectives, and get real about what's happening around us here in Jamaica. Now, this is a video that I've wanted to do for a mighty long time, and today we are diving deep into the hard truth of how politics has destroyed what could have been one of Jamaica's most powerful tourism gems. Let me tell you about a place where tourism in Jamaica really started and how it was slowly destroyed by politics and big businesses. Once upon a time, long before Ocho Rios became a place anybody talks about, the real star of Jamaican tourism was actually Port Antonio, Portland. And it wasn't just a beautiful place, it had a laid-back style environment, but importantly, it was alive. This might come as a surprise to many of you, but cruise ships would visit the parish at least 3 times every single week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Sometimes 2 large cruise ships would pull up at once, one docking at the pier and the other would wait out sea, and they would shuttle the tourists in using boats. Additionally, Tuesdays and Thursdays were just as busy because the banana boats would actually come in on those 2 days. So the port was busy practically the entire week. And for many Portlanders, life was good. Tourists would step off the ships, walk through the town, stroll through the markets, the craft market, and guess what? There was nothing known as tourist harassment back then. None. There was no begging, no aggressive selling, no hassle, nothing at all. Tourists and us, the local people, mixed freely. And they just go about their business like they were just a part of the community. They would come off the cruise ships, explore the beaches, the rivers, and all of the hidden gems that were in Port Antonio or in Portland. They would move about freely without anybody harassing them. So it was peaceful, it was natural, and Port Antonio was a kind of laid-back vibe that they really and truly enjoyed. But then things changed, and for the worse. A new government came in, and some big businessmen saw an opportunity to make bigger money elsewhere, and so they started the move to take away the cruise ships from Port Antonio. The promise of better roads, bigger docks, and more tourists for Ocho Rios was alluring, but not for Portlanders, not for Port Antonio. So slowly but surely they moved the cruise ship to Ochi. At first, I think persons believed that it was just a temporary thing, sharing some of the tourist passengers, nothing to worry about there. But unfortunately, it wasn't a temporary situation. It became permanent, and the cruise ships stopped coming in. The town got quieter, and the money basically dried up for local businesses. At the same time, the dollar began sliding, and so the need for US currency became a problem. Not just for Portland, but for the country as a whole. Political turmoil, all sort of stuff was happening back then. Arising from that now, we began seeing something that we have never seen before, which was tourist harassment. And this wasn't because the people turned bad, but because there was a shortage of US dollars. And so persons began asking tourists to exchange the US dollars. Back then they called it the black market. So persons would be changing currency, US currency, on the black market. But interestingly enough, some of these guys weren't doing it for themselves, they were doing it for businessmen who were desperate to get their hands on US currency so that they could purchase merchandise for the businesses. So it became a way of survival for both business and the regular man in the street. But unfortunately it got worse, and the tourists started to get uncomfortable because of the harassment. The numbers were few to begin with, and those who came were seen as praise. They would prey upon them to get the US dollars to change the currency. The Juta services also suffered because there was no tourists to carry to Rio Grande and places like those. Now today, the place still fantastic. If you look around Port Antonio, the beauty is still there. You still have places like Trident Hotel, Royal Palace, the Blue Lagoon, the Rio Grande is still there doing their own thing. But the crowds are gone, not as massive, nothing compared to what they used to be. And the cruise ships, of course, those are gone. So all that's left is the spirit of the town, the memories for those who actually lived there, who was aware of how vibrant Port Antonio once was. And this is what makes me so turned off by politics. To me, all of this started because of politics, greed, and decisions made far away from the people who actually depended on the industry to survive. So Port Antonio's story is not just about a town, it's a warning. When leaders and businessmen chase quick profits and forget the people, they kill evil, the brightest dreams, the brightest aspirations. And so they basically devastated Port Antonio as a result. But for those who remember, Port Antonio is still a place of magic, a place where Jamaica's tourism truly began. And maybe, just maybe, one day it can rise again. Unfortunately, I'm not that optimistic. Some years ago, plans were put in place and executed to spruce up the pier. So Port Antonio now have a very lovely pier, and the hope was that it would attract mega millionaires from the United States and across the world to come and dock the yacht in the pier and just to enjoy the parish, enjoy the ambience, enjoy the people, enjoy the weather. But so far that has not materialized. But thankfully, Portlanders are able to benefit from this awesome pier that have been built. So thanks for tuning into Talk Sense. If you found this video helpful or informational, like, share and subscribe. Let's continue to reason and build a better Jamaica together.